Well, hello and welcome to yet another episode of the e-commerce podcast. My name is Matt Edmondson and I will be, as always, your host for the next few minutes as we chat about all things to do with e-commerce. But before we get into our fantabulous conversation, I've just realized I've said fantabulous. It's a great word. Use it as much as you like. But before we get into that, let me invite you to join the newsletter at ecommercepodcast.net, where we send out all of our notes to you, to your inbox, totally free of charge, totally fine and dandy. Now, a quick plug to you, dear listener. If you are an e-commerce founder, right, you've got your own e-commerce website up and running, and you've got a story that you'd like to share, or even if you might not want to share it, but you think it would be interesting anyway, I would love to hear from you. We are starting to talk to more and more founders on the podcast. And actually, I would love to feature a lot of founders who already listen to the show. I think you guys, you listen week in, week out, which is great. And I appreciate that, genuinely appreciate that. And I would love to talk to you and hear your story and put it out and share it with the rest of the world. So if that's of any interest to you, you can reach out to us through the website, ecommercepodcast.net. You can just follow the links there and just click apply to be a guest on the show. Half the questions I don't know if you'll be able to answer. Don't panic. Just say you're a founder and it'll go through to the team at Pod Junction who do this show. Or you can reach me on LinkedIn. If you don't already follow me on LinkedIn, come follow me. Just go search for Matt Edmondson and I will pop up. It's just LinkedIn/Matt Edmondson and you'll find me there. And yeah, reach out to me on LinkedIn. Love to connect with you. And also on LinkedIn, you're going to hear me start to answer all the questions for Matt, which have been coming out, which I've been really slack at posting. I genuinely apologize for that. But hopefully by the time you hear this podcast, we are well underway with answering those questions. So do come find me on LinkedIn because we're going to be posting those there as well. Because we've been asked some great questions and no pressure to today's guest, but, we have been asked some great questions. Speaking of today's guest, let's meet our guest, shall we? Let's meet Mr. Siddharth Sinha, CEO of Dresma Incorporated, a startup revolutionizing visual content creation for e-commerce. Now he's on his third venture, because, one is never enough. And he brings over 20 years of experience across industries from tech innovation to cement manufacturing. That's really helpful for an online company. That's why we got him on the show. With degrees from Cornell, as well as a whole bunch of other places, he's blending business expertise with cutting-edge tech to reshape how e-commerce brands create standout visuals. Siddharth, welcome to the show. Great to have you, man. How are you doing?
Great to be here, Matt. Lovely talking to you, and thank you for the introduction.
No problem. I mean, let's get straight into it. Cement. What was all that about?
Yes, I thought startups weren't hard enough, so I went into the real world.
And so you thought, I'll just do cement, as you do.
Yes.
Yeah. So do you know, have you got an inordinate amount of expertise on the topic of cement?
Well, I did run a cement manufacturing facility for 10 years, so
wow.
What I didn't know, I do know now. So.
It's brilliant. I mean, in a separate conversation, as much as I'm tempted to go down this road, I might have to pick your brains at some point. I've always fancied, in my spare time, Siddharth, not many people know this. I think I've mentioned it before in the show, but part of my downtime, part of the thing I like to do to sort of relax and downtime is joinery. I like to make furniture because it's not digital. It's real. You have to touch wood.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? It's not pixels. And I find my wood shop is a wonderful place to go. I've got a great little wood shop. But one of the things that's always intrigued me are the concrete kitchen worktops, where you you cast them in place, don't you? And you polish them and you color them and it just looks wonderful. And everybody makes it look so easy. And I'm sure it's not actually that easy. But I've always been intrigued by that. So at some point I might have to pick your brains about how to do that well.
Sure.
Have you ever done anything crazy like that?
Not really. I mean, the craziest I get to is I do cook a lot, so I do some interesting dishes. I like to experiment in the kitchen. So
okay,
that's something.
Very good. Well, maybe we should also trade cooking tips. I'm sure your food is much tastier than mine. I mean, you're in Delhi, aren't you, at the moment? So I'm sure you get access to much more interesting spices than I do.
Fortunate thing about Indian cuisine is it's actually much more varied than people realize, because it's completely different north to south, east to west. So it's obviously India is like Europe in a single country. It's that much variety, both in terms of culture and food and architecture.
Yeah. No, I can only imagine, and I'm sure the feast of flavors is phenomenal, and so. Yes, I'm probably slightly envious of your kitchen. So, so we should probably start talking about e-commerce before my belly starts rumbling, wanting food. So, tell me about Dresma and how you got involved in that.
Yeah, so my two co-founders were running a photo studio in Delhi, as well as doing a lot of post-production work for a large number of retailers, e-commerce studios around the world. And we quickly realized that it was an extremely painful process, very manual, very expensive, and extremely time-consuming, which was not at all suited to the whole online selling paradigm. And if you think about it, I mean, the AI content, at least till a couple of years back, hadn't had a lot of innovation, a lot of investment in it. You think about logistics or payments or customer tracking, all of that had a lot of tech go into it. But AI, for some reason, content creation still was being done the old-fashioned way. So that's what we decided to work on, and first started off with a mobile app that essentially helped sellers to click their own product images. Then from then on, essentially added functionality to do creative images with AI backgrounds, AI-generated models, as well as a bunch of higher engagement content like A+ content that we need for Amazon.
Yeah, fantastic. And I mean, I've had obviously a look at what you guys do, and I think it's intriguing, like you say. I mean, we've had many years of innovation in a whole bunch of things, and I think probably the biggest innovation, if you would have asked me before the show started, excuse me, still getting over the old man flu, so I apologize for the odd cough. But if you'd have asked me what the biggest innovation in content creation was, I'd have probably said, well, the smartphone was probably a big innovation because it made content creation portable, and I didn't need fancy DSLRs, which we all had years ago. The sort of the big. I remember in one of our warehouses we put like a little photo studio with the lights and the infinity background and all that stuff, just so we could take a product shot. And now it feels like actually the shots that work the best are the ones usually shot on a smartphone with some, kind of lifestyle shot. Or you take a photograph of something and then spend hours cutting it out on Photoshop, trying to get rid of the background. And we've done all of those for many years. But I think other than the smartphone that could do photos and videos, there's obviously been a few clever apps. Canva, I think, came and changed things a little bit, didn't it? And then I suppose you had AI arrive that sort of became okay at creating written content and tried for a while to create actual images. And I just remember, people with 20 fingers and stuff like that because it just couldn't do hands. And so we sort of seem to be slowly getting better at AI images, although you can still spot them a mile off. So unless I've missed something, I think you're probably right. I can see why you would go there.
It's only been the last I would say 18 months or so that the AI is getting good enough in some sense to readapt images. And what I mean is that if you have a product image that you clicked for your white background Amazon shot. You can take that image and then transform it into a lifestyle shot or create a social media a piece about it. And it's getting to the point that it can get photorealistic, with changing backgrounds, maintaining colors and shadows and all of that. And only in the last, I would say, 9 months or so has it really gotten to the point that you can actually do real model generation in the sense that something that you could substitute studio imagery for.
Which is interesting, isn't it? I mean, do you think AI will get rid of the need for us to do like product images? So I'm thinking, if I take a product, let me take this cup, right? I'm holding a very nice mug. I know if you're listening to the show, which most of you do, you can't see it. It's a lovely little mug. One my wife bought me for Christmas. So I treasure my mug. But let's say I sell this, right, online. This is my thing. Oh, you've got a mug as well. Very good. Cheers.
Cheers.
And so we've got a mug selling business online. Notoriously difficult to get a good picture of this because of the way light reflects off of it and so on and so forth. But do I need to do that these days, or can AI do everything for me?
So I mean, if you think about how AI works, I mean, it really works on what NVIDIA CEO Jensen likes to call triers. It likes to work on something it's seen before or something like it's seen before. But when it comes to products, it is your product. It is unique, right? So you don't worry. So if you have only one angle click for a product, if you need to show it at a different angle or the other side of the product, the AI is only going to do a best guess. That's not what you want out on when you're selling, right? So whatever savings you get on the photography and the imagery, you're going to have so many higher returns because people are going to find out that it doesn't really look what you showed online. So the photography of the product, I don't think is going away anytime soon. So you do need to click very high quality images of your product. You can then transform and reuse those images in multitude of different ways. But you do need, very high quality images of the product that you're selling.
Yeah, it's an interesting point, isn't it? Because, I mean, if I look at the products on my website, you've got the standard. Well, let's talk about the mugs. The standard mug with the white background. Now, actually, on our website, that shot was 3D rendered from design files, which I couldn't actually do for this mug that I'm holding. Granted. But I certainly could for the products that we had on our website, which gave us much better lighting control. And it's photorealistic. So, it's a simple supplement bottle. So I don't have too much issue with the 3D render because it is a genuine like for like. But if I've not got a product like a mug, for example, that's not necessarily easy to replicate with 3D renders, I can invest, it seems, Siddharth. I don't know if you've noticed this, but you can invest anything from taking the picture myself on a white background with my smart mobile. I could get an app maybe like yours, or I can go to some really high-end photography studios that charge tens of thousands of dollars to do the shots with insane cameras and create insane videos and stuff. Most of us aren't there, are we, with that camera budgets? But I'm intrigued. Is it a case of if I've got some product, I'm selling my mug, actually it's not a bad thing to go and invest in some proper professional photography if I can afford it, rather than trying to do everything myself?
Yeah, it actually depends to a certain extent on what you're trying to sell. I mean, if you have something that is reflective, like a metal piece, or if you're selling jewelry, then at the very least, it makes sense to invest in a soft box, if not professional photography, because you want to be able to create the environment or control the environment that you're clicking the images in. So that's important. So for those kinds of things, it's important to be able to get the setting right and have the camera settings right and the studio settings right. But for a bulk of the products, if you're selling toys, for example, just need to click toys and the packaging that they come in, you can do that photography yourself. The real power of AI comes in when you want to use those product images for other types of content. So, for example, if you want to do infographics out of the product images, or if you want to do an A+ listing out of the same product images that you clicked, that's where the real power of AI comes in. It really gives you that much more adaptability as to what you want to be able to do with that image.
So you start off with good images of your products, like you say. You can feed those into AI, which gives you these sort of alternate images. So if we're and I'm intrigued by this conversation, Siddharth, because I've had lots of conversations about email, about conversion rates, and about all those kind of things. I've had very few conversations about the images that we use on our websites. And I've noticed,
it's funny, right? Because it's probably the one factor that really drives your conversion on both discoverability and conversion on the site.
Yeah, more than most things actually, and it's because we're still all quite visual, aren't we? And like you say, it's you know, I don't know if you ever saw the movie Falling Down with Michael Douglas that came out years ago. You know, he totally loses the plot when he walks into a burger restaurant and the burger that they give him looks nothing like the photo, you know, on the poster. And of course it doesn't, you know, and we can go to these incredible extent of taking these amazing photos, and like you say, if it doesn't match what is delivered, there's a problem. But I think we do that because actually the photography matters. The reason McDonald's hamburgers look so good on the pictures is because the photography really matters, and the image sells the product on a quite a subconscious level, I would have thought.
So it's interesting, and it's becoming even more so because if you look at how content is getting consumed on mobile, it's very rare. For example, if you go on for the Amazon listing, you see the main product image, and maybe you flip through a couple of the infographics of the lifestyle images, just tell you a little bit more about the product. It's very rare that people scroll down and actually read through the product descriptions and the metadata and all of that comes in. So their decision to buy is really on the carousel that's right at the top. It's only reinforcement information that's coming from the metadata and the descriptions. So if they like the product, then they're scrolling down and seeing, okay, does this have the materials or the specifications that they want? So both from and if you go one step before, when Amazon is showing you the listings or the search matches, you're only seeing the hero images and deciding which one you want to delve into based on that one single image. So the entire customer journey is gated by the images that they see.
Yeah, and it's such an important point, and I'm really glad actually we're talking about this, because the amount of websites I go on, the images just aren't great, and you kind of think, I can see you've spent tens of thousands of pounds on the website, but very little on the photography, and the balance is all wrong. It's all skewed somehow. I mean, I mentioned to you earlier, I just finished a recording with Gareth Everard from Rockwall Razors. So I don't know when this episode comes out in relation to Gareth, but we recording this like an hour after I finished talking to Gareth, and it was a great conversation. Really great website. Love his products. But I can tell you now, I'm saying that on the basis of the fact that I have looked at his website, got an instant impression from his website, and looked at the photography that he has used to show me his razor, right? And it's done so well, you kind of go, I really like, I mean, it's a beautiful product, and I think it's a beautiful product because of his photography. I've not read any of the descriptions. I know which one I'm going to buy, right? But I've made all of that decision based on the photograph and the number of ratings next to it, the two things that I've looked at, which I was sort of sitting here thinking about that before we got on the call, and thought, well, isn't that interesting how my brain has worked sort of over that.
It's interesting what's happening. I mean, and you're talking about at least you're as a buying decision, you are a person looking at this image. But what's happening now is people are shopping much more by use rather than by product. So it's much more likely today for somebody to search for a summer dress rather than a sleeveless white type of dress. So it's much more usage driven rather than product descriptions. So it really matters. Because I mean, all the searches now are multimodal, so they can actually see images in some sense. So you better have a dress being worn to a summer party if that is the search that is happening on marketplaces.
Wow. Yeah.
So that's
a really interesting point.
And if you were going to do this through traditional photography, imagine how you would do this. 3 weeks into the season, you realize that your dresses are being searched by summer party. How are you going to get that image? I mean, the only way you can get that image today is you use AI to to create that image. Otherwise, you have product coming out of your warehouse, going to a studio, getting shot, getting worked on, and then coming back onto your listing, which is a 6-8 week affair, maybe more, and thousands of dollars. So it's
such a valid
it's
point.
Really interesting. So that's
it's really interesting. You talk about context-aware search. So you're right. The search engines are getting smarter. They can actually start to see images, whereas before we always used to have to write alt tags. This is an image about. Now they can actually see the image itself and understand it. And so that's such a. I'd not thought of that actually. That's such a clever point that you now have this context-aware search. The other thing that I've noticed is you take something like Amazon, right? And I'm always aware of trends on Amazon. They always happen for a good reason, right? It's not like accident. You know, there's a lot of thought gone behind it. And I suppose a few years ago I noticed it that they moved away from just the photo with the white background. So that's the first photo, isn't it? It's always in the product listing, but it's changing more and more. So you take something like supplements, which I know the field very well. You've got the front of the bottle, the back of the bottle. You've got the products, the supplements outside of it. You've got the box, the inside of the box, the outside of the box, product with the box. I mean, you've got all these different shots. So people can actually read the box before they buy it, which was always sort of blew my mind. But now we're starting to get pictures of so you've got the product, but you've got infographics, you've got text, you've got stuff that we were always told never to put in images. You've now got in images, right? And so we've almost acknowledged that people aren't going to read the product description. They're going to scroll through the images. So we best put the key benefits on the image as well now.
Yeah. And not just any image, on your hero image, because if you look at how search works on any of these platforms, you are going to see a bunch of hero images show up in front of you, and if you can, stand out there by use, by benefit, that's the image that you're going to click. So, for example, if you were selling, for example, a desk organizer, right? If you could show that desk organizer in a desk that tells you what size it is, whether it's going to fit you on your desk, that is much more likely to be clicked rather than just a desk organizer on a white background, because there I can't tell scale. There is an uncertainty about that product. The one within context has that much more certainty that I can go through and find something that I can use.
That's another valid point, because going back to the supplement site, we found that when we start to add images of the supplement in somebody's hand, conversion rate went up because they understood how big it was.
Yeah, exactly.
It gave it context. Whereas if you just put the supplement with a note saying this is 5 millimeters long, people, it's not contextual enough.
Sizes. People are challenged when it comes to converting numbers and units into actual physical dimensions.
Yeah, no, totally, and so we saw these sort of these context photos. So this is where I think AI is actually becoming quite interesting, isn't it? It's creating these sort of playgrounds where I can invest in getting a good original image with the white background, all cut out, nice PNG, high resolution, because cameras these days, it's just insane how high the resolution is. So I can get those shots done, invest in that. But beyond that, actually, I can start to use AI in quite creative ways now. So I don't have to invest in these quite expensive photo shoots, right? Excuse me while I cough. Sorry about that. Let me just make a little note. We'll cut out the coughing scene. What did I last say?
Yeah, you're talking about AI, using AI to sort of give context to.
Yes. So maybe then how do we get AI to help us to create these images? We've got our original shot. How can AI help us?
So, for example, on our platform, you can come in, you can put up, upload your product image if you've already shot it, or you can use our app to click images. It will suggest, depending on your product category and product, it will suggest different kind of backgrounds to create. If you want to create a lifestyle image, you can click on any of the references that we do, and our references are constantly updated. We have essentially. We look at lots of different data sources and pull references for you. So it's like an automated mood board that we create for you that you can pick what kind of context you want to put your product into. We also have, we are going to release in early Q2 an automated infographic generator. So we can actually take up a product image and it will suggest different kinds of formats to use for infographics and either pull product information right off your label, or you can update product information manually as well. So you can create infographics, you can create lifestyle images, you can create full A pluses out of that as well.
So, I mean, AI then can start to, it seems, do a lot. But can it help us with video? I mean, is it clever enough with video yet, or is it just really more static images?
The challenge with video is I mean, ideally, you want the product in motion, right? You want somebody to move the product around in their hand. So you are capturing portions of the product that may not be photographed. So the AI is second guessing what your product is in that angle in some sense. So you may get augmentation or changes in the way the product looks. So that's something that you need to be careful about. Other than that, you can. We will have a video generator available Q3 of this year as well, which will allow you to essentially transform voice, change looks of models, change the context that the imagery is taken in. But we do suggest you actually photograph the product in the various angles and contours that you want it to appear at. Because the last thing we want to do is have your products get a higher return rate because it doesn't look exactly the way it actually looks in real life. So that's something that, I mean, as you probably know better than I do, if you just have a marginal increase in the return rates, anything you save on photography or content creation will go out of the window very quickly.
Yeah, absolutely. It is, and it's interesting, isn't it? I mean, my understanding is, having used AI a little bit across various different playgrounds now, AI is good until it has to start making things up, and then when it doesn't know stuff, it kind of tries to fill in the blanks, and that's usually where the problems lie. And so I get that. I'm intrigued because actually, if I take my phone. I've got what is this? This is the iPhone 15 Pro Max, I think. It's not the latest model, but it's, the one below. It's got 3 cameras and a LiDAR scanner on the back. And I'm intrigued whether with the LiDAR scanner, basically I can 3D scan pretty much most things, can't I? And with the cameras, you can take some... you can take the images and build like an interesting 3D model. I've seen people use them to build out rooms, and then there's an app I've got because my wife wants to redecorate part of the house, so we can take a scan and we can go, I wonder what this color looks like, and it will show you, and it's great. So I can imagine then somewhere down the line, if it's not there already, you'll be able to 3D scan with your phone these products for videos, I would have thought. And also maybe for still images.
Yeah. So you can 3D scan, and, the conversion of, getting a numerical representation of the shape of a product is not that difficult. You can actually do that today. So if you have I mean, the only caveat is it doesn't work very well for reflective products, but for anything that doesn't reflect light, it works pretty well to actually get you a shape of the product.
Yeah,
texture is something that is very difficult to do. Because if you think about velvet, for example, it has a very different look
Yeah.
on one side or the other. Or if you have, for example, product labels. Once you have your product shape done for a product like yours, it's always better to go back to your the print files that you release to actually get the label printed, and
Yeah.
take that and slap it back onto the 3D generated model. That's
Yeah.
what's going to give you the best outcome, because
Yeah.
scanning of textures is actually very difficult to do. The
Yeah.
shapes actually are the easier part.
That's an interesting. Yeah, I'd not really thought about texture. I sell vitamins in some respects, so there's not many textures. We had an issue when we took photographs of the product. The reason why we went to 3D renders, just to clarify, when we actually photographed the product, because the cameras are so good, they're so much better than the actual printer.
Product.
The print quality, right? So the labels with very small text on, there's only a certain amount of print quality you can get with what we legally have to put on the label. And so what we were noticing was actually when we took these high-res images and put them on the screen, the labels looked really bad, and they didn't look that bad in real life. It's just that the way the cameras were so good.
Yeah.
And so we were like, we just have to put the actual, graphics on there.
The graphics. Yeah. So I mean, that's typically with any product type. If you want 3D generated, so the shape is actually the easier part to get done, and then you essentially get into the texturing, which is the problem.
Yeah, no, that's a fair comment. I suppose if I tried to do it on a furry hat, it wouldn't work as well. Unless I got Pixar maybe to come 3D render, but then I'm sure they'll charge me a few quid for that. Where do you? I mean, you've obviously got access to a lot of customer data, people that use the app and stuff. What are some of the trends you're seeing in imagery then, product imagery that's working well at the moment? What are some of the takeaways maybe that we can go, I could try that, or I could do that for my own site?
So it depends a little bit on the product vertical. With fashion, definitely, more fluid poses and fluid, more natural photography is where trends are going, especially in Europe. That's definitely a trend. So you're seeing that, people or brands are leaning much more towards more natural looking models, more natural looking scenarios, and more casual poses. So it's definitely a trend in that part of the world. In Asia, things are a little bit more. It's still stuck in some sense the older ways of doing things. They want very much sort of studio, looking shots and poses and all of that. So from a trend perspective, both from vertical and geography, that sort of is changing. With anything that has where product specs become important, supplements are a great example of that, or electronics. You are definitely, you are seeing now Amazon listings that are all infographics. So all 6-7 images are infographic images, because that's the only thing that people are actually seeing. So bulk of the traffic that sites are getting are all mobile traffic, and on mobiles people just don't read. So it's the images are all that they're seeing, and that's where the buying decisions are happening. So if you're seeing for anything where product specifications, features, those are important to convey, it's all infographics.
And again, maybe it's just something that I've noticed more and more. It's not just a case of here's a picture of the front of the product. So for us with the supplements, you would start it when we started out. You're like, this is the picture of the bottle from the front, and then this is we had a second photo. This is a picture of the bottle with some of the supplements kind of around it, and then we figured out actually we should put a picture of somebody, like say the supplements, somebody's hands. They were sort of the go-to. Then it became about, well, actually we also need to show what the back of the bottle, because people are intrigued what's on the label. And so then we had to show that photo, and then it went further. It's like, what packaging does this come in? Can we see a photograph of the packaging? Can we see a photograph of the packaging from the front? Can we see it from the back? Can we see it from the side? It's like all of a sudden we went from wanting just one or two images to not necessarily an overload of images. But I'm aware now with data speeds being what they are, and actually it's not really a problem for most people, more images is not really, it seems, an issue at the moment. And so there's, like, if I go to, not really an e-com example, I suppose, but if I go to, say, Rightmove, which is an estate agency app here in the UK. So if I want to see what houses are for sale, I can just go into Rightmove. There are 30, 40 photographs per house because it's free to take the images, it's free to store them, and it's quick and easy. It's online, just no problem. And I noticed, actually, going back to Rockwell Razors, they had quite a lot of images. It's a razor. I'm like, how can you get that many images for a razor? But you've done it really well, really quite cleverly. And so, how many images, I suppose, do we need?
So, I mean, in some sense, it's a no risk investment, right, Matt? Because, I mean, if you think about how much it costs you now to actually get high quality images, it really is much cheaper than it used to be. So you can get professional quality imagery. I mean, on our app, you can get professionally retouched images for £1. So it's really not that much investment. The question is, will you risk shaving off £5 on a product listing? Will you risk the success of your product on that? So it's just, you much rather err on the cautionary side and have as much imagery and information on the listing as possible.
Yeah. So as many images as you like. What have you noticed? Because I'm sitting here thinking, Siddharth, and I'm aware that my expertise, as limited as it is usually around small products, right? So I sell supplements, small products, do beauty, small products. I was talking about Rockwell Razors, small products. I'm thinking, well, hang on a minute. What happens if we take it larger? What happens if we sell a couch, for example? And I'm now going in my head through the websites which sell couches and going, well, actually, it seems the bigger that it is, the harder it is to get the photography right. Because, I mean, close-up small items seem a bit more straightforward.
It's not just that. It's, with furniture, photography becomes extremely difficult because if you want to do a lifestyle setting, you don't need a couch. You need a full room. So you need to arrange for, carpets, for side tables, for bedside lamps, cushions, all of that to come together to do a single shoot. So, a single couch shoot can run you thousands of quid. Yeah. It's a really expensive, way to do lifestyle shoots. Where AI really shines there is, if you've invested in reasonable quality shots, and we have customers that use our app or DSLR cameras in warehouses themselves. So basically, they've set up a white room where they actually just do the product photography, and we use AI to essentially do lifestyle shots for them. It really cuts down on both the time that it takes for them to do the imagery and the cost, because they need to pull one product out of the warehouse. So if it's only for example, a couch manufacturer, they can just shoot the couch. We can put everything else together. They don't need to buy props or rent carpets or side tables. The other advantage is that if you have, for example, new stock coming in, and it's being, we have customers that are, US-based furniture distributors, and their stuff is being made in Malaysia or Indonesia. They can do the photography there, and we can give them, ready to go lifestyle shots that they can prep their listings much before the product actually hits their warehouses.
Yeah, fascinating. So where do you see it all going? Like you say, there's not been much innovation. I think when I first started out in e-commerce in 2002, we showed an image usually of the product on a white background if we could. Fast forward 22 years, we're still doing the same. Now we've added infographics and the images have got better, and we can get AI to create lifestyle shots, and then we started to add video to the site, and then we took it off because it made your mobile sites too slow, and then we've put it back on because Google allows it. We've got the still images, we've got motion, and sort of between us, and I suppose we've got a few clever things now where if I want to know what this IKEA couch looks like, I can go into my room and use VR to take a photo of my room and sort of superimpose the couch, which I think is quite clever. I suppose that's another innovation I didn't think of earlier. Not really needed in the supplement world, you know. But if it maybe, I don't know. So where do you see it all going? Because a few innovations here. It's all been a bit static. Do you think it will stay that way, or do you think
there are some interesting applications that are coming out of AI? I mean, I think they're maybe a year or two away from real production deployment. One is virtual try-on of all different kinds of products. So that doesn't work very well today, but I mean that's something that we should be able to solve for in the coming few months. So that's basically taking any dress or clothing item or handbag on a Shopify store and say, okay, what would I look like with this on? So that's something that's definitely over the horizon. The other thing that's happening is that content is becoming much more customer specific. So you have storefronts and marketplaces that really want to target customers with very specific pieces of content. So if I know that you're searching, for example, going back to the example of a summer dress or a garden, something to wear for a summer garden party, if I know that you've searched for that, I might as well show all my relevant products in that context to you. That's the easiest way I'm going to get that conversion.
Okay.
That's something that's around the corner. So I mean, you will actually be seeing products in context as you would like to see them in context, or for your particular use case.
Wow. So I mean, does that mean then websites are going to be smart enough to generate these images on the fly?
Yeah, on the fly.
Wow. That would be quite interesting, wouldn't it? So the product image that I see and the product image you see are the same product image, but the lifestyle shots would be quite different.
For example, if you're looking to buy, both of us might be looking to buy a white shirt, but I might be looking at for a more formal occasion. You might be looking for a more informal occasion, and the imagery would take that into account.
That would be nuts, wouldn't it? I mean, that's going to be. Okay, so that I think would be a bit of a game changer. I think that could be quite interesting. And you say that technology is not very far away.
No, that's not very far away.
Wow. Well, you heard it here first, ladies and gentlemen. Watch this space. I'd be curious to see how that actually does work in real life. Listen, Siddharth, I'm aware of time. I'm aware it's getting away from us. So let me, before I run out of it, let me ask you, what's your question for me? This is where I ask all my guests for a question, and I will endeavor, as I said at the start of the show, to go answer this on social media. So over to you. What's your question for me?
Matt, you're deeply embedded into the e-commerce space. What would you be doing if e-commerce didn't exist?
That's a good question, a really good question, and I'm curious to think about this one. So yes, great question. If you would like to know how I would answer that question, come find me on social media at Matt Edmondson on Instagram or LinkedIn, which is where I'll be posting. Well, I'll definitely be posting the answers on LinkedIn. So come find me on LinkedIn, and I will see you in there. But Siddharth, if people want to reach out to you, if they want to find out more about Dresma, maybe about what you guys are doing with imagery, maybe even how you can help their business, what's the best way to do that?
Sure. They can always reach me at siddharth@dresma.com or through my LinkedIn account. That'll be great.
Fantastic. We will, of course, put those in the show notes as well. Which if you subscribe to the newsletter, they'll be in the email sent to you. If you can't be bothered to subscribe to the newsletter, you just scroll down in the podcast app that you're using to listen to this podcast. The show notes will be there as well. And if all of that fails, just go to the website, ecommercepodcast.net. Show notes will be there with the links to Siddharth, to Dresma, and obviously to his LinkedIn profile. And you can see all the stuff that's going on there. Siddharth, anything else? Is there anything else that I should know about?
I think we had a long, good conversation. And,
I think we've covered most of the bases. No problem at all. Thank you for coming on, and thank you for sharing your insights on it. Like I say, it's one of those things I would never have thought to have a podcast episode about it, and I'm glad that we did. It's made me think. So thank you for coming on. Thank you for sharing. And all the best, my good friend.
Thank you. Thank you, Matt.
Well, there you go. What another fantastic conversation. Huge thanks to Siddharth. In fact, I should do this. Sorry, I do this every time. There we go. Yes, huge thanks to Siddharth for joining us today. What a legend. Thank you so much for joining us as well. Now, this show is produced by the wonderful people at Pod Junction. Big shout out to them that make everything possible. Of course, if you haven't done so already, like I say, go to the website, ecommercepodcast.net, to find all the show notes. And in case no one has told you yet today, I know so many of you wait for this. I should probably get I don't know if I've got a drum roll. I haven't got a drum roll on my little thing. I should probably get a drum roll. In case no one's told you yet today, let me be the first. You are awesome. Yes, you are. Created awesome. It's just a burden you have to bear. Siddharth has to bear it. I've got to bear it. You've got to bear it as well. So that's it from us. Thank you so much for joining us. Have a fantastic week wherever you are in the world. I will see you next time. Bye for now.